Hey, I'm Summer.
And I'm Mike.
And we got married.
With children.
We're married 2 years now.
Blended for 11.
Like a margarita.
Yeah, baby, like a margarita.
And you're listening to the Everything Always podcast.
Want to tell them why we do this?
We do this because blending families isn't easy. There's step parenting, co-parenting, his ex,
Her ex.
schedules, sibling rivalry,
Money issues.
custody issues.
Dating and relationship issues.
It's a whole lot of stuff.
Blended with a whole lot of good stuff.
And we're here to talk about all of it because we've done most of it.
We might not be experts, but we've learned a lot.
And we're still learning, and we want to share that with you.
Thanks for joining. Now let's go.
Well, I would like to welcome my husband back to this podcast because it's been a few episodes.
I have missed a few episodes. That is true. It's been very unsettling for me.
Well, you've been doing a lot. You have been pretty much building us a house.
We have been doing a lot of work around here. That is true.
Yes. Mike walks around with his tool belt on, feels like the man.
I don't really walk around with a tool belt on. I think she's saying that like it's a euphemism. My mental tool belt.
Well, you know what? Our house is coming along. We might sound a little echoey. We don't have the greatest spots right now to record.
I'm glad we have places to sit.
But we have places to sit. And you might hear some plastic. We still have some plastic covered furniture for all that dust that's happening.
That is true. It is true, but it is coming along. So what are we talking about today?
Well, here's the deal. Surprise. I'm going to actually ask you some questions because believe it or not, we get some questions from men who are either in a dating situation with somebody who has kids, who are divorced and are having some issues co-parenting. They have children, are dating somebody without kids. So I compiled these questions and I thought, you know what? I think it'd be great for you as a man. I'd love for our listeners to have your perspective.
You want my perspective?
We're gonna
watch out.
We're gonna ask your advice, but before we start that, I thought I'd ask you some questions about your experience, just a few, and then I'm going to ask you the questions that we've received, which actually are some very common questions. So
You're asking me questions?
I'm asking you questions.
Oh wow, you're putting me on the hot seat?
I totally am, and I'm a little nervous because I don't know what you're going to say. You might make us look bad.
Oh, thanks for the confidence. I appreciate that.
You know how sometimes you kind of have to worry about what someone might say? Here's the thing about you. I so admire that you will just say anything and not care what anyone thinks. I'm also very fearful that you will just say anything and not care what anyone thinks. Because and listeners, if you've been listening to us and me, especially in the last few episodes, you know that I suffer from being a people pleaser, working really hard to not be. So I will worry if am I going to offend somebody? But you're just kind of like, I'm going to just speak my truth. You might not like it.
Maybe that's true. I don't know. I don't look at it like that necessarily. I think about things, but you're right. I probably am more.
You're very confident about what you're just like,
here's how it is.
Yeah. But I think that's awesome because you know that the truth is coming out.
Yeah.
Well,
all right. What kind of question? What's the topic again? You're asking me questions right now.
Well, first I'm going to
without telling me the questions in advance.
Absolutely. So yes, this is totally on the spot. Hey,
I'm not saying that I'm not in.
Okay. So I want to ask you first, what in your experience, what's been the hardest part of the blending of our family?
That's question number one. Not an easy one.
Look, people have so much time in the day. I'm going right in.
Question number one. What's the hardest thing about blending our family? Wow, that's okay.
In our 12 years from the moment we started dating.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because things that were the hardest part at, maybe 7 or 8 years ago are not the hardest part now. So what I would say is that the hardest parts change over time, that there isn't really one hard thing. Dynamics change in terms of personalities, in terms of, living arrangements, in terms of like all of the things that are, put in front of you. So I would say, if we go back a long time, I think the hardest part initially when we got together was how to integrate the kids and the personalities and their frustrations with feeling like a new person's coming into their life. Maybe there's going to be pressure of, is this person going to take, my mom or my dad away from me? But I don't feel like those issues are even relevant now, which might have been the most prevalent, issues at the very front. Now I think more of the issues are, it's more dynamics in terms of as the kids become, teenagers and they're getting older and they're starting to recognize and realize the things. Some of the challenges now are, are we creating an environment where we're being good examples for the kids? Are we showing them what a healthy relationship could be like, right? I mean, to make sure that on, one side of their parenting, time or period, that they're getting an example that's going to help them create and mimic, healthy things moving forward. So I try not to yell at Summer. I rarely kick down walls. No, I'm just kidding. But I think in terms of that, it's like, and I think we've talked about it before in other podcasts, is that the challenges that you're having now that seem like they're the thing that's the biggest thing are not going to be the same ones later.
That's true.
They're going to be different, and you just have to roll with it. And I don't know if I answered the question, but there's the answer for answer number one. Question number one. I hope number two isn't that hard.
Well, what's been the best part? How about that?
Well, that's easier, right? I think the best part for me is that I've really enjoyed having not only my own kids, but the opportunity to get to know other kids and to be, an influence in their life, hopefully for good. I love our family dynamic. I'm to the moon for Summer. She's like the best thing ever. And, the whole thing actually feels very, I don't know what the right word maybe is, but it seems very like, I want to just say good, but I want to use a word more that is like the whole thing just kind of seems right? Like our family unit, our dynamic feels like a family. It feels right. You think about holidays or things or birthdays and all of us being together, just seems like we're connected enough now where there isn't any of that thing. It's just everybody is. It's not hard that way anymore. When before it would be like, you're not my brother, you're not my sister, you're not my dad, you're not my mom. All of this stuff is new and difficult. And of course, our dynamic was a little different than a lot of people's because our kids were pretty young when they were first introduced, and now they've had a long time to just make it the normal.
Some people, and you know what, we had some questions, so be prepared. You have a hint of some questions coming from some men. Yeah, I love that. Okay, that's it, baby. That's it. I'm not going to put you too much under the gun. So now I do.
I think she read the next question and was like, he can't handle it.
No, that wasn't it. These are now the questions from our listeners. And I wanted you to, I just thought it would be so great for you to answer these because you've actually been there and done that. It's not, I've had experts on the show. We've had different other couples and stuff, but it's like, let's talk about what you've already been asked these, by the way, from friends. You've been asked this from other couples we know that are, getting married, thinking about getting married, are married with children, one without, because there's a lot of these situations these days. So here's the first one. We've got about 5 or 6 questions here.
I hope some of them are fun.
Well,
you're like,
what? Some of them might be, but these are serious. Like the way I think about it is like, I'm like, wow, if somebody is serious enough to send a Facebook message who doesn't know us is going through this to ask this question, then
they're probably not in a super fun time.
Well, they're really wanting a serious, answer. There's fun stuff that you get, but most of this stuff is like people ask and they ask it privately, right? So there's no names attached to this. And I will say mostly it is women, but we have men that write in. So I want to make sure that we address these.
That seems pretty normal to me.
Yeah, I think, so, okay. Yeah, men and women handle things differently, right? And how they seek out help. So here's the first one. My stepchild doesn't want to spend time with me what should I do? Should I force it? And this is a man asking this. I
mean,
don't know the whole dynamic. Some of these, have a little bit more.
Well, it seems pretty simple to me that you can't force someone to do anything. So maybe you'll be within proximity of each other because you forced them to go with you in the car or to go do something with you. But I wouldn't say that forcing it is the right way. I think you start, with that mentality of playing the long game, right? If you want to have a connection with somebody, first you've got to build their trust. First, you have to be something stable. And it's not your job, as a stepdad coming in to come in and go, hey, we have to be perfect and everyone has to be happy. You need to show that there's love in your home. You need to show that you love and respect that it's coming from the male perspective. So that kid's mom, right? The more that you can love on her and actually show that you're a really good person, the more you're going to gain trust with the kids. And you know what? Give it time, because they have a whole set of issues that aren't yours. It's not about you, really. They could be going like, man, this is really difficult. I want my mom to be back with my dad. This dynamic isn't right. I'm going to resent you. And it's going to be freaking hard. It's not like nobody said it's going to be easy. So don't think that it is. But that dynamic is going to change over time. It will improve. So don't lose your temper. Don't get frustrated. If they don't want to be around you and they're not giving you the, hey, I super love you, you're the greatest thing ever, it's all good. Just be slow and steady.
I like it.
I don't know. What do you think?
No, I agree. Hey, I'm not answering today.
I get to answer all the questions.
You get to answer all the questions. He's like, wait, I get to talk and someone's just going to sit there and be quiet. This never happens. The normal
way this goes is that I'll Summer will talk, I'll chime in, she'll look at me like, shush, and then just keep going.
I do not.
I get a lot of shushes.
Okay. This one is, my girlfriend lets her kids get away with anything, and I've never been a father before, so I don't know how to change this. What should I do?
Get a new girlfriend. B.
B.
Okay, next question.
No, come on. But wait, that's, that is like a situation. I don't know if he said he's never been a father. So, and he is obviously they're dating, not married, but it's important to him, obviously, if you're considering, he's asking this question because it sounds like maybe they live together or maybe, I don't know the whole dynamic.
I guess I have two thoughts here, right? Because I've had situations where I have my buddies or whatever that don't have any kids. Because I had kids when I was 25 years old, yeah. 26, and looking back, I feel like that was kind of young. I'd say wait a little longer, let your life develop before you decide to get into all that. But everybody does different things, right? I might have been old compared to some people, but I know that I did have friends that I'd have the kids and they'd be like, man, you got to do it this way. You got to do it this way. No wonder your kids are so loud. No, you got to discipline it. I'm like, you have no idea, brother. This is discipline. You should have seen them before or whatever. I think if you're not a parent, don't be too judgy in terms of what the discipline thing is. Now, on the other hand, I do know some parents that literally your kid needs to be reeled in. It's getting out of control. So I think if it's really concerning, then the way that you would go about it is you would want to have a dialogue. You'd want to say, hey, listen, I know that they're not my kids, but if we're going to be together as a team, because that's what we are, if we're really going to be together, then we're going to have to do the parenting thing together if we decide we want to be married or be officially together or living together or whatever. So you have a conversation, you start a dialogue, you basically say hey, here's the things. There's a lot of the parenting skills for discipline that you can read about and learn about. I'm not going to get into all of that, but I think you have to express that concern, and not in a negative way, and not at the moment when one of the kids is in trouble. It's not like this just happened, so I'm going to tell you right now how you should be doing this. You know what? Let it play out. Then schedule a time or figure out a time. Say, hey, can we talk about the way that we discipline? Can we make sure that we're on the same page? Are our values and the things that we do, are they aligned in terms of how we want to do this? You get to have those important conversations along with another bunch of important conversations that you should be having to determine whether or not you're compatible to actually be married. But have that dialogue. and, have those
That's
conversations.
a great point. I would highlight that point of not right when it's happened, but because stress is already high, but like at a place later
Nobody
on,
wants to be criticized in the moment, right? So
Right.
it's like one of those things, get through it and then just approach it like it's,
Mhm. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
This is a common one. My wife is very insecure about my ex-wife and our friendship. How do I handle this?
We had a podcast at the very beginning when we started this about boundaries, and
we just actually one of our latest ones. I think it was about boundaries.
Well, we recapped on that one, but the original one talked very specifically about some of the rules in terms of like what's appropriate and what's not, and having a great relationship with your ex may be great, and it might be good for the kids, and it might be the right thing. Like everybody's dynamic is different, but it is important to take into consideration your new person's feelings and the things that are acceptable to them in terms of having, a tight bond and, having that trust, right? So in those situations, you really have to, I think, consider the other person's feelings. And again, when you're determining what's okay, like what are the rules in your family dynamic that you will agree to live by based on your new relationship, you have to set those boundaries and you have to determine what they are. And then you need to live by them and you need to respect them. Because in some dynamics, guy gets married and is super good friends with his ex-wife, and the new wife is now super great friends with the ex-wife, and there is no issue there. There could be the situation that new wife completely is threatened by old wife, and maybe that means that it needs to be a business relationship. Doesn't mean that it has to be hostile or whatever. But it has to be like, okay, we're not going to get to be friends because this is what I've chosen in terms of our agreed upon rules in our relationship. And, make the rules, stick by the rules, and have respect for your partner. And I think you'll probably not, end up getting divorced a second time. Maybe.
Yeah, I love it. Hey guys, guess what? We have a new website where you can see all of our podcasts and get easy access to the show notes, everything we talk about on the episodes, and you can even listen to the podcast directly from the site. You can contact us through the site and share your thoughts and questions. Check it out at www.everythingalways.co. That's www.everythingalways.co.
And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Everything Always Co. We just set it up and we'll be sure to put important announcements there.
And we love that this podcast has been so helpful to so many, and our hope is to share it with even more. So can you help us? Will you take a moment now or after the episode to subscribe to the podcast, write a review, and share it? It would mean the world to us, and it helps us to keep bringing you the best content.
Come on, we appreciate you guys. So what do you say, baby? Back to the episode?
Back to the episode. I'm dating a woman who has 2 teen daughters. My friends who are fathers of teenagers tell me to run. What do you think?
Let me get this clear. Make sure I heard the question.
So it sounds like he's dating somebody, and it sounds like he hasn't known them when they were younger. I'm taking it as he's dating a woman who has 2 teenage daughters, and his friends who are fathers of teens are just like, run.
Get out of there, Frankie.
Get out of there.
It's not too late.
I almost want to agree now.
What I can tell you is,
and it sounds like he doesn't have teenagers himself.
What I can tell you is that teenagers can be very difficult. It was really funny.
And there's so many levels of difficulty.
I was talking with somebody yesterday, and they had all these little kids running around. They're like, "Oh, you have kids?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have 4 kids." "Oh, how old?" And I'm like, "Oh, they're all teenagers, went through the ages and whatever." And she's like, "Oh, that must be so nice. Now that it's easy." And I'm like, it's a different kind of hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not changing any diapers, literal diapers, but you could be changing like diapers in life with some of these kids when they're teenagers as they're trying to figure out how to become grown-ups, right?
Yeah.
Different form of difficulty. Anyway, in terms of, dating women with kids and you don't have any kids.
Well, teenagers specifically, right?
Regardless though, right? I think that when a man makes the decision to take on a relationship where he's going to be stepping in to not just, not just being with the woman, you have to take the whole package, right? The package comes with all of the things that it comes with. You have to consider that. And again, sometimes that will work out and sometimes it won't. I think statistically, there's a much higher likelihood that it won't work out because people have trouble adapting not only to a new relationship, but adapting to a parenting situation when they haven't had to kind of go through the parenting thing with their own kids.
Mhm.
So statistics will show you that it's less likely to work out.
But that's,
But not to say that it won't work, right? I'm just saying take that into consideration. And again, it's about that communication in advance. Know the person, right? I mean, I think we really should kind of sometime recap like all the things you should discuss before you decide to get together
Mhm.
that most people don't talk about, right? What are your religious beliefs? How are you going to handle your money? What are your parenting styles and house rules? What are your morals and values? Maybe I already said that, but
Mhm.
what are they in alignment? Because during the honeymoon phase, everybody's doing the thing that's like fluffy
we'll
and
make
nice.
it work. Everything's
It's gonna
going to
be
work
great.
out. It's going to be great. Yeah.
I'll change you and make you exactly what I want you to be.
No. That's great. And we do have an episode on that. I think it'd be great to do a recap on it. Okay, this is a great question, and I think it will pertain to a lot of people. I actually, this is probably one of the most popular questions on this topic, similar to this. So the question is, my ex-wife lets our very young children watch R-rated movies. If I mention it, she gets angry and says she can do what she wants on her time. How would you handle this? And I'm saying I get this, not this exact question, but I get a lot of, he does this at his house or she does this at her house. And I'm so against it. And this is a very typical, common issue amongst co-parents. So
Well, it's because different people have different rules.
yes. But this one specifically, sometimes it's not just the different rules, but I'm worried about what my children are seeing.
So I guess on this topic, right? First, I want to say if the things that are happening in the other house are dangerous, then those things have to be reported, right? Drug abuse, weapons, things where like a child could be in danger. That's a different type of thing, right? So those take serious, talk to, it depends on the level of what it is, right? But, take the appropriate steps always to make sure that your kids are safe. The next thing would be, depending on the level of what it is, don't be the person that's 100% trying to control the things that are happening on the other side. Your rules are your rules. And I think a lot of people would be like, well, you need to make them not watch rated R movies. I think you have the ability to control the things in your time, in your space, and you have the right as a parent to express your concern and how you feel, but you need to make sure you do it in a very, I'd say, formal way, right? It's like send a formal letter. I'm sending this letter because I'd like to voice my concern. I know that I can't control what you do, but I would like to just let you know that I'm worried about this. If you'd like to respond and have a dialogue, okay. If not, I understand that I can't control what you do. And I'm not trying to do that. Here's what it is. And at least you've had the opportunity to express that. So later you can come back and go, look what you did and look what happened because of it. Gotcha. No. I mean, just kidding at the end. But, you can't control the things you can't control. And the more you try, the more you're going to feel frustrated, the more it's going to lead to, toxic relationships, fighting, and things that I think will potentially, even hurt the kids more, knowing that their parents are always fighting and yelling because I can't believe you let Jimmy Joe do this, and this, and now I hate you, whatever. Like the whole drama of it when, just accept that your rules may not be someone else's rules and you can't enforce them.
I was waiting for you to bring back Jimmy Joe. He's always in stories.
Yeah, right. That's the go-to name.
Okay.
Jimmy Joe.
Next question. My stepdaughter's father has stopped seeing her and only focuses on his new family. Should I step in as her father now?
Oh, wow. Really? Okay. Well, I guess I would say right off the bat, in a situation like that where a child could definitely be feeling rejected and feeling like they're not as good, and that type of thing could lead to lasting, emotional problems. At the same time, I don't think you can just say, I'm going to step in and be the new dad. I think the scenario is that you need to be considerate of the fact that if something traumatic has happened to one of your kids, you're put in, or one of your stepkids, right? You're put into a position now of having more of a responsibility potentially to give the other side of the relationship, that father side figure. But if you're doing it right, you're already doing all of the things that would have been happening. You're there, you're supportive, you're available if they want it. You can, like I said, you can't force anything, but maybe take into consideration that maybe you need to go a little bit above and beyond. Do the check-in. How are you doing? What's your week been like? Are you okay? And really work with the other parent to make sure that they have access to the support so that they can be, as healthy and happy as possible.
All right. I have one more question for you.
The last question.
The last question. Although it's not like one of those, on interviews, they go, I have one final question.
And after the break.
What message do you have for the world? And they come up with, this really is the last question. This is one that I've seen a lot too. I want to propose to my girlfriend. I have 2 kids and I don't want any more, but she's younger than me and wants to have a baby. What do I do?
Wow. Okay. So I guess I have 2 feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is very relevant. I've had this scenario with multiple friends.
Totally.
And I guess I say 2 things normally. And it's just my opinion. I mean, this is.
Oh yeah. By the way, this whole thing is all Mike's opinion, so you can just
disregard
right
off. Just disregard it and throw it right out. Actually, just delete this episode. Move right to the next one. I would say this. If somebody has that feeling where they want to bring a child into this world and they want to have that life experience, it would be a shame to not allow that person to have that, right? And sometimes in relationships, you have to make hard decisions based on the way you want your life to go, the direction that you want it to head. If your kids are grown and out of the house or teenagers and you're like, I don't want to have to go through that again, that thing of like bringing in a new child or having the responsibility or having to like kind of reset, that time, then that doesn't work in your life plan, right? Your goals together don't align.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have to take those things into consideration before you decide, no, even though I super love you and I love being around you and you're an amazing person, maybe we're not supposed to do this life journey together because we don't have the same things that we want, the fundamental things, right? At the same time, if you feel so strongly for the person that you're willing to do something that you don't want to do, that you wouldn't really say, hey, I want to do this, but you know what? Because I love this person so much, I'm going to do it anyway. Then you make the choice, right? I mean, it's like every choice is a choice. I wouldn't say that, well, I would say there's one thing you shouldn't do. You shouldn't say, because I don't want to and you do, but I know that you love me enough where you will compromise to not. If you force that, it will come back. It will create resentment. It will be an issue later. So just, sometimes it could be 10, 15 years later where it's like, I really wanted to do this thing. You told me no because whatever, and I loved you. So I determined that I would give up what I wanted for you. But I don't know. What do you think, Summer?
Oh, am I going to insert my opinion?
I'm just saying, like, that's my opinion, is that you just have to really evaluate it.
I think that...
And again, every situation and case is different, right?
I think...
If you're 90 and your 22-year-old girlfriend wants to have a kid, maybe you should be considering your dating range.
I think I agree with you. You have to take all those things into consideration. if one or the other, if you decide, well, in this case, it's the man asking, and if you do decide that you are going to have a child, then don't do it and then hold it against her. I did this for you.
This is not always in that relationship too. This situation I know has also come up for a guy that wants to have a kid. She's like, I already have grown kids. And he's like, but I want to have a kid to carry on my family
No, it
name.
happens both ways.
And, then the other side is like, but my kid's 18 and I don't even know if I can have a kid. And I'm 40 now. Like, I don't want to have another kid. You got to really decide.
Well, you have to know what's the most important thing to you. Is it the relationship and the love? Like, one person obviously has to compromise. But what I would say is that in that compromise, if you are the one that is compromising, don't do it with I did this for you. It can't be something that you then hold above them, because then there will be the resentment. If you're going in, go all in and be committed to that choice. It's kind of like a forgiveness thing. Like if you are forgiving somebody for something, you then can't keep bringing it up. You hurt me, you this, you that. Then that's not true. That's not true moving forward. So you want to make sure that you don't have all of that hiding, so that years later when something goes on, well, I had that kid for you and I never wanted to have, it's got to be go in with the full commitment.
See, Summer gets to answer the questions.
Well, you invited me to answer that last
It's hard
bit.
not to invite her. It's very difficult for me.
Okay, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
This actually, I think I did more talking on this podcast than I've ever done.
That is very true.
Wow.
I appreciate all of your
This was
input. I
this
think
was
our
good.
listeners do too. Keep bringing the questions because we love it. You can go to everythingalways.co. You can send in questions there.
And
You can
I will
also-
tell you, Summer actually reads them, and she'll come in because we've had some questions. We're like, holy crap!
I don't even know how to answer this.
I don't know.
We're not total experts, but we can give our thoughts.
Call the police. Call the police.
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
seriously, we have had those type. Mm-hmm.
Find the phone, call it right now, because what's going on is not cool. Like, anyway.
Yeah.
But Summer really does. She reads them. I look at them too. We talk about them over dinner.
Yeah.
It's
Sometimes we ask the kids because there's people that have questions like from
and she a lot
their
of the
kid's
time
situation.
she responds. We don't, this one we ended up reading some questions that people had that are kind of fun to talk about. But she responds, and like I think we always say, right? We're not experts. We're just parents.
Yeah.
Who have kids. We're trying to make the best blended family that we can. And sometimes, our advice probably isn't right.
It might not be
It's
for everyone,
just from
right?
our,
It's just
our
our
perspective and from the things that we've learned. And hopefully we're helping people not, step on some of the same landmines that we have.
Yep.
And yeah, that's the whole reason that we started the Everything Always podcast, right?
Here it is.
Speaking of Everything Always podcast, you should like and subscribe and share
That sounds like a great idea.
on all of the places where the things happen.
Wherever it's aired.
On the interweb,
we would be grateful. All right, you guys, thanks again for listening.
See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Our goal is to bring you all kinds of value that will help you navigate these challenging waters of blending a family.
Reach out to us if there's something specific you want to hear.
And don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.
And if you really like it, share with someone you love.
Ooh, and be bold enough to share it with someone you don't.